Yo, what's going on, everyone? I'm excited to introduce to you Liz Rice. Oh, this is episode 31, by the way. Woo woo! I made it.
Nice. Congratulations.
Yeah, honestly, I didn't think I would make it 31, so I'm happy I passed that still.
Congrats.
But yeah, I'm excited to introduce you, Liz, who just seems to always be having fun at work. Like, not only does she crushes her quota and crushes it as a enterprise account executive at LinkedIn, but it seems like she does it while doing all these like team activities to bring the all the sales folks at LinkedIn together. And yeah, we'll love to kind of dig in a little bit deeper about your story because I think it's fascinating how at one point you were in a performance improvement plan. Is that what it's called?
Started from the bottom. Now we're here.
And now we're here. And then now you're like at
Literally from the bottom.
literally. And then now you're the top enterprise account executive at LinkedIn Learning, right?
I think Mimi has me beat, but I'll get to her.
All right. Well, you're
Yeah.
still killing it. Like you're crushing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's awesome. And then you have over $1 million, I believe, right? You close over 1 million.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't have $1 million in my pocket, but I did bring in over $1 million so far this year. I'm actually not even sure how much I brought in.
That-
So,
That's pretty
yeah,
good. Last I checked, yeah, it was over 1 million.
1.3.
Not bad, not bad.
Yeah, not too terrible.
So that didn't happen overnight. So like, yeah, would love to kind of share a little bit about what it was like when they were like, all right, we're putting you on a PIP, and then like how you were able to implement like some of the feedback to be able to, or was it just bad timing? Like, would love to hear like how you were able to rise from the ashes.
Like a phoenix, and I don't have that tattoo, but maybe I should get one. Yeah, so basically I started at LinkedIn almost 4 years ago, and I came from a completely different industry. So I used to sell media online to like agencies and clients, so very different sales process than the SaaS one that we're obviously doing today with LinkedIn Learning. So I came in and it was completely new, and I first had to learn what I was selling and like how the process went, because it again is very different. I was given an unfortunate book. I was a non-specialist enterprise account executive, which basically means I was hunting into organizations that didn't use LinkedIn from a recruiting standpoint. So these are not the best accounts, like fisheries, meat plants, farming, truck drivers, like anything that wouldn't necessarily need LinkedIn Learning. So I think that was challenging from the start,
Huh.
is to actually go through my book of like, gosh, 1,000 accounts and figure out like what are the actual accounts I can sell into. There's maybe I think 10 accounts. So I think, with that understanding, and also the understanding that this isn't a quick and easy sell, I think as most people thought it was coming into LinkedIn Learning and acquiring lynda.com.
Yeah.
So I think that was a learning process for the executives as well, to say like, hey, you can't really quickly turn this around as quickly as we thought. So they did adjust our goals in year one. So I was able to hit my goal in year one because they reduced it by 50%. And I've sold into at least a few of those 10 accounts that I that I found in that book. But what that did is it didn't set me up for year two, because everyone else had basically created opportunities during the first, year that we acquired lynda.com, and I didn't have the same opportunity because of my book was so awful. So during the first 6 months of the second year, I closed, I don't know, maybe like $60,000. I was like at 20%. And at that point, Kyle did pull me aside and say, you're going to go on a pre-plan if you don't, meet X, Y, and Z goal. And so I was like, okay, in my mind, and I told him, obviously, because I'm not one to like beat around the bush. I was like, well, this just like is not fair. because I didn't have an opportunity to build my pipeline like the other not specialists had, because they had better books. And that aside, one, I think focusing on that I wouldn't be here right now if I was focusing on like what was fair and what wasn't fair.
Mm.
But I did have a bad attitude for like a couple weeks after that, because I was like pissed. I mean, who wouldn't be, right? Because like to me, it wasn't fair. And so I
Mm.
think I went through a couple of emotions during that time, like anger, sad, you know, it was like the 7 stages, like depression, then I was at a high. And then I kind of had this moment with Kyle, where it was like, listen, you can come into work and be like, act like this, or you can decide, hey, I'm going to do everything I can to be successful at this role. And come in with a positive attitude, because it ultimately affects the people around you. If you come in like really sad and depressed, and you're
Mm.
going to affect the people around you, even though you think you're keeping it to yourself. And so for me, I was like, I have to make a decision right now that I focus on the things that I can control, which is how hard I work, my attitude, and my response to situations. And so that's what I decided to do. And because of that, I was able to actually bring in every dollar I needed of revenue to meet my goal. I think I ended up at 120% to my goal that year. And I was the top performer out of those enterprise AEs who had that horrible book from the year before. So
Wow.
um, yeah, I was happy I got off the performance plan, and happy I was successful. But I think what that ultimately did is set me up for success for the years to come. So focusing again, and I know like Kyle and Ryan send this out all the time. It's like focus on things you can control,
Mm.
but it is true. So that's kind of where I am today, and I think why I've been so successful today.
So I think that actually ties into what's going on right now with COVID, right? Because there's so many things obviously we can't control.
Mhm.
So what advice would you give to, because I do think that a lot of the people listening, or I feel like a lot of people that give me feedback on my podcast are like younger in their sales career, maybe it's like their first 3 years in sales, and maybe they haven't had experience with something like a COVID or something dramatic like this. So what advice would you give to people that just feels like there's so many things we can't control, and or maybe even losing motivation and drive to, I guess, like, how would you approach like reaching out to clients now?
I think there's a couple things to remember. Like, we're all human. Like, I feel anxious, I feel stressed, I feel like I'm not in control. Like, I was talking to Jen earlier today, and it's like, as salespeople, we just always want to be in control of the situation, and we truly can't control any of this. So for me and my sales process, I am always at like I always err on the side of caution. I am not sending out like really hard messaging right now. It's very soft messaging, whether that be some of the free resources or just asking how they're doing. It depends on if I have a relationship with that person, right? Like, if I have a relationship, I obviously can talk about other things. But if I'm like newly prospecting, I just want to be very, very careful that I'm not emailing these people 3 times a week, calling them,
uh,
um, because at the end of the day, like, they could be scared for their job and for their future.
yeah.
So for me, like, I'm more of an emotional like seller, I would say. So I like to put myself in the place of like, how would they feel, or how would I feel if someone was doing that to me? And I keep getting like John Barrow's emails to sign up for like some sort of like
Huh.
sales like conference or something they're doing, and it's just like, save all this money now. And I'm like, ew. I'm like, it just is like the wrong time for that messaging. And I'm like, how would I feel if I was doing that to somebody else? So that's how I like to see it.
Yeah, that's interesting. So, obviously, like, a lot of HR people are like losing their jobs now, right? Especially people that are like recruiters or more in talent acquisition. Um, but so it sounds like you're like an emotional seller. So you know how they say there's different types of archetypes of people that we like decision makers, like there's some that might be more analytical or data driven. So how are you able to be like adaptive to like the various buyer personality types?
Yeah, I think it's listening. And as sellers, we love to talk, but we really need to listen. So I think on the first couple of calls, you start to realize, well, like what excites this person? Because I do want to excite that person, right? That is an emotion. So like, what do they need to get excited about the product?
uh,
And one of the biggest deals I closed, the primary cheerleader I was working with loved data. So I was like, great, let's pull some data. Let's get the insights person on a call. Let's like have you guys nerd out, right?
uh,
So I think you have to read your audience and be adaptive to that, because at the end of the day, I want to get them as excited about the product as I am. And so that's truly what you have to do, is figure out what gets them excited.
yeah, I was reading Chris Roberts' LinkedIn recommendation, and he said that Liz is a very conscientious account executive who provided me with valuable insights into lynda.com. From our first phone call, Liz took the time to listen to our needs and provide thoughtful advice and recommendations, which was backed up with data and research. Throughout the process, Liz adopted an how can I help approach to focused on building a relationship and on solutions.
Nice. Thank you.
So it sounds like you took the data approach and insights and research, and you weren't just selling based on like getting like rah. It was more like, all right, I'll give you the data you need, and with that we can build excitement within, you know, you and with you and your counterparts.
Yeah, yeah. Everyone has such a different. I was talking to a rep in APAC, and we just have totally different sales processes. Like mine is not. It's relaxed, but it's not relaxed because there are deadlines and there are things that we need to accomplish together during the sales process. And of course, I always stick to the timeline. But like her process is very rigorous, where it's like we get on a call. Each call we do a demo with the decision makers, then we follow up and do another call. And it's just like that works for her, and it's really impressive. And I'm like, great, I'm gonna like steal some of this stuff for some of the communications I send out to my people. But mine is just so different. But it's funny how both of them work, and we can kind of rely on each other to adapt to those different behaviors that we see in the people maybe we're selling to.
That's interesting. Yeah, you do seem like pretty calm, right? For someone who has like an enterprise account executive quota, which I can't even imagine because I'm stressed out with my quota, right? Of yours. So I do notice that you do seem pretty like even keeled. You know what I mean? Like when I look at you, you don't
To
look
you. No, I'm kidding.
what?
I said to you, I seem even keeled, but inside my mind, no, I'm kidding.
Is that what's going on?
No, no, I do get stressed out, right? Like everybody gets stressed out, but I think at the end of the day, when I kind of was on that performance plan, I'm like, this is a job. We all need to remember at the end of the day that this is just a job, and it's not life or death. And I think a lot of salespeople do think it's life or death, and it's actually not. So um, that's kind of, I think, another reason why to you I seem even keeled, because I do realize that this is a job and I love it, um, but it's not life or death.
Yeah, and it seems like you have pretty good awareness around your emotions and what you're feeling at a certain point. So it just seems like you're very like self-aware. So you don't let it like control you, right? It's more like you're like, all right, what's happening? Why am I feeling this way? And then what can I control? And okay, if I can only control that, I'm gonna double down on that. And then, you know, I think kind of like trust the process and everything will just fall into place.
Yeah. One of the other things that one of the things you can control during this time is thinking about your top accounts and like the future of those top accounts. And like, do you want, because at LinkedIn obviously we have holds that you can carry over, like thinking about those accounts maybe that you want to cultivate that relationship with now, from more of a like a personal standpoint, or just like getting in touch with them and thinking about how can you continue that relationship into fiscal year 2021. So that's something that I'm probably going to do in the next couple of weeks, is like make those top accounts. Have I had contact? How do I keep up that contact? And if I haven't had contact, does it make sense for me to hold this account or not? So
Huh.
that's something that I'm planning on starting soon as well.
That's a great point. So what factors go into, I'm sure there's many factors that go into which ones you decide on, but I guess what are like the top three criterias that you go by? And I'm sure this is not like a silver bullet, but I feel
Yeah,
like,
I'm not analytical, so there's no number crunching, there's no Salesforce reports.
yeah.
It's honestly based on the conversations I've had to date. I think a lot of sellers will be like, oh, this place has like 1,000 employees. I'm definitely going to keep them, but they haven't had one conversation.
Mm,
So that would be a waste to me to hold that because I haven't had success in that. So what makes me think after a year, or maybe if I held it for the past 2 years, that suddenly they're going to come back and be like, now we want this. We've never spoken to you. So
mm.
a lot of it goes like to gut check. Like, have I spoken to them? Does this feel like a real opportunity? Like, that's what I use. No numbers. Probably.
Because I feel like some people take like the very analytical approach where they're like,
Mhm.
on paper, this would be like the best client, right? But then to your point, it's like, well, if they haven't ever responded to me and they've never given me the time of the day, what makes you think that tomorrow will be any different, you know?
Yeah.
So, huh. That's helpful because I feel like everyone's sort of having that conversation now, right? Especially because this, we all know that like this is going to pass eventually, but this quarter, you know, probably isn't going to be everyone's record breaking quarter, right? Like just realistically. So I guess that's another question. You know, we all still have quotas, right? We all get paid. We all get paid. You know, salespeople. A decent chunk of our how we pay the bills is like based on how much we close, right? So I guess like, what's your advice on? Well, yeah, like still like ending out the quarter like in a powerful way, because I
Mhm.
don't think, you know, not everyone is like the number two rep, right? Like, you know, you've closed
Yeah.
0.3, but what about people who are maybe like 70%, or you know, it doesn't look like they're projected to close out the quarter like, you know, what they thought they would prior to this COVID stuff happening.
I think it's like, instead of focusing on like that one number, like looking at your whole like annual year, like how did I perform versus that, rather than I have this number, I'm only at 30%, but you're forgetting all of the hard work that you did the prior quarters as well. So
Hmm.
for me, I think making the smaller goals that maybe aren't attached to revenue will make you feel more satisfied. So that's what, again, that goes back to making my list for 2021, figuring out what I can do for the current things that are in my pipeline, from like email or meeting standpoint, or I'm filling out an RFP right now and I'm trying to get the content team and a CSM and everyone to join this huge meeting. So
Hmm.
I think it's focusing on like the smaller things you can check off your list rather than this huge number, which seems impossible.
Hmm. No, that's good advice. On a side note, I see little color pencil or crayon drawings.
Yeah.
I'm asking.
Yeah. So I'm actually in Erie, Pennsylvania. Probably you're not familiar with where that is. It's in Pennsylvania. It's practically in Ohio. I grew up here, so I am at my mom's house here in Erie, Pennsylvania, with my sister, her husband, two kids, and a dog. My niece is 4 years old, and my nephew is 3 months.
Uh,
So she has been making me art for The Office. She has also appeared in several conference calls. So it's been very interesting because it's hard to like, I'm not like obviously their mom, but like I kind of feel like I also am helping because I'm living with them. So it's been interesting to balance that as well during this time.
yeah, totally off topic, but what have you been teaching them, or what do you think they're learning from you? Because I think as kids, like we always like, whether it's conscious or not, learn from people we look up to. So what do you think like they from you right now?
Probably nothing like good. I'll tell you a funny story. We on Sunday, we for some reason Hoarders was on television. Like we didn't like put it on, like turned on the TV and it was on. And so we're just like watching it. And my niece came in and she was sitting down, she was watching it. And I was like, we should probably turn it. Like this isn't good for a child. So we like turned it after a couple minutes. And the other day she was like, I want to watch coins. And I'm like, well, what is coins?
Oh,
I was like, I don't know what that is. It's like coins. And then she's like, you know, I want to watch quarters. And I was like, it took me like a day to figure out she wanted to watch hoarders because she thought we were saying it was quarters. So she was calling it coins for a couple days now. So,
huh.
um, yeah, pretty funny.
Oh, but that's nice that you care enough to like even change the channel, right? Like my babysitter did not definitely think twice about like, you know what I mean? Like that type of stuff.
That's true. Well, my sister was in the room and she was yelling at me, so I kind of was forced into it. But now she's always like, I want to watch quarters.
Oh,
So we're like, no, you can't. But that's pretty funny. I don't know. I mean, I feel like we cook a lot together. We create art together. It's honestly, it's like a nice break, I would say, to be able to
hmm.
play with her every single day because I don't have that opportunity in New York.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I think right before this, you said you're a spitting image of a selling machine, right, or something like that. Unless I heard incorrectly, I don't know. Am
I was kidding. I was like, definitely am not a selling machine. I wish I was, but I don't think I don't think that will ever be my title, selling machine.
I-
I wish.
So I'm curious. Like, I feel like sometimes, like as an enterprise AE, you're more like a quarterback than you really are. Like, I feel like sometimes you're like a project manager, right, or a program manager, right? You're like managing a lot of different people. Like, how would you? What's some advice you would give to like motivate everyone and get everyone on the same page? Because I feel like half the time you're like just trying to gather the internal resources and you're trying to like get resources to help you, but other people have so many other projects that they're working on. Like how do you get them to buy into like helping you out versus like, other the billions of other things they have to do?
Gosh, that's a great question. Um, I I guess like I am always helpful if someone comes to me. So like if someone comes to me asking a question or needing help, I'm like 100% absolutely.
Mm,
So the people I'm asking for help, I usually already have some sort of relationship with them.
I see.
And so I'll have that relationship. And then I'm also like, hey, if you need me to add to like your review, like as a peer review, I'm happy to do that as well because a lot of these positions are not measured against revenue like the majority of our role is. And so they need these peer reviews to show their performance. And so a lot of times I'll do that as well to show like, I truly like appreciate their help.
That's good. That's good advice. It's so what about to counter that point? It sounds like you're always like helping people. Where do you strike that balance of like almost like not to undervalue your time? Because I feel like sometimes you don't want to like give too much because like oh,
Yeah.
you got a job to do, right?
I mean, yeah, I don't know what that balance is because I probably need to take the course on like how to say no. Because
Uh,
I feel like I'm always like, if someone asks, I'm like, yeah, no problem, sure. So I probably need to maybe even get better at that. That's why we're here today, Davidson. I couldn't say no.
oh my god, the funny story about that. I was like, it was actually eating away at me for like not doing this because I kept saying like, because like I like to be person of integrity, right? So if I say like, hey, we're gonna do this interview, we're gonna do it. But I was just like, I'm very distracted. I think similar to you, I said yes to everything, and because of that, I just had so many things going on. So I was just like, it was eating me for like 2 months, and I was like, I gotta get Liz on, or else like I'm gonna like kill myself. So it just
Well,
funny.
don't worry, I wasn't losing sleep over it. So you're fine.
Necessarily for you, it was for me, like just because I'm like I try to be someone of my word, and like I
Got it.
do this, and it took me like 2.5 months to like finally put it on the calendar.
You
You
know what I do? I have a list. I
know?
have a list every day of things I need to accomplish. And of course the list gets long, but then I, cross out the stuff. But that's how I keep myself accountable is this list right here. So if you're not on this list, I will forget about it.
So what do you do if, like, let's say you have 30 things that you figure out over the course of the day, but you didn't finish 10 of them? How do you like transfer it over to the next day?
Well, I just don't cross it off, and then I know I need to do that.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
it
The
sounds
satisfaction of crossing something out is something I rely on a daily basis, which is why I say to make the list because it's like gratification, you know?
hmm. So it sounds like it's like you don't really like use technology. Like it seems like you're very simple in the sense that like you don't want to overcomplicate things, right? You're kind of just like boom, like this is how it is. Like I don't know, it just seems like you're very like it's like you like to keep it simple.
Yeah. I mean, who likes complicated things?
I don't know. I think sometimes people like technology or they like to razzle and dazzle with like the latest analytics and the trends and stuff like that.
Again, if that person's into it, I'll send it to them. But if I don't get that feeling from them, then I'm not going to overwhelm them with data that they didn't even ask for. They're probably going to be like, this is confusing. I just want the content, like I think you got to keep it simple to meet what your audience is asking for or your people.
Right.
It's in life, right?
Yeah. And like, did you always know that? Because I feel like that's something that I'm still working on that I don't know, for some reason it's taking me longer to kind of like implement.
But I think again, everyone does things differently. And so if that works for you, you should do that. If you're asking if I send a point drive after every single meeting and disco and demo, I don't.
Oh, really? What do you?
I don't. Yeah. I send them what I got from the conversation that they needed. I don't want to overwhelm the person. So, you know, understand what they need, send them that. But I don't like overwhelming people because I think I feel overwhelmed right now, and maybe I'm alone with all the COVID like materials people are sending us.
Oh,
I'm like, I am so overwhelmed, I cannot handle this.
oh shit. Okay.
Do you feel overwhelmed with it?
No, I do, but it just I think to your point, I think sometimes I'm oversending COVID resources to my prospects, you know?
Yeah. Well, I feel like I'm getting overwhelmed from LinkedIn sending me stuff to send to prospects, and I'm like,
There's a lot.
I'm feeling overwhelmed. Like, again, imagine the people I'm trying to sell to. How overwhelmed are they, right? So, like, we're not the only people sending them stuff. So that's why I'm like, I'm very overwhelmed. And that's why I'm trying to keep it simple with my outreach
Interesting.
and follow-ups, anything really.
Okay. I would love to for you to like I definitely want to see some of your responses because I'm thinking back, I think I'm way over like I think I'm writing too much, you know?
I mean, but that's you though. If that's working, then you should do it.
I'm not closing 1.3 million.
I mean, that's different, right? Like you have different accounts and everything. So I think if again, trust your gut, trust your process. I'm learning stuff new every day and implementing that into my process. So like happy to send you some stuff, but it's not gonna be groundbreaking.
Yeah, but I think even just seeing how someone else does it, maybe even if I implement like half of it or 20% of it, I think it'll help, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, well this is a pretty awesome conversation. What
Yeah. Thanks for asking me and following through. You can check that off your list now.
I know, right? Now I can finally sleep at night. Maybe that's how I wasn't able to sleep at night.
That's probably it. That's definitely it. And just remember, like, this isn't like life or death at the end of the day. Like,
Yeah.
you gotta keep things in perspective. But I'm certainly happy to be here, and I appreciate you taking the time to talk to me and thinking I'm someone special. So
You are
appreciate that.
still.
Thanks.
And
Thanks.
I
I
just
miss
want
the
to
office so much.
huh?
I miss the office. I miss having fun, making jokes, laughing.
I know it's so like it really does because if this didn't happen, I would take everything for granted, right? Like the breakfasts, the lunches, like
The
even
people,
snacks.
people,
Yeah,
hugs, just simple things.
yeah. But yeah,
Uh,
it'd be fun to get us all together, and I'm looking forward to the thing that you're putting together. That's coming up pretty soon, right?
oh yeah, the trivia. It will be good. There's gonna be prizes. I figured the best way to get people to come to this is prizes.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
Cool.
Cool.
Well, thank you for everything, Liz, and I can't wait to see you in person. And thanks for sharing a little bit about what's made you successful. And I think people will find this enjoyable conversation.
Cool. I hope so too. Thank you, and I'll talk to you soon.
Okay, take care.
Bye.